So are there any storable and carryable heating items in this?
Nope, not a single one. The only way to heal without having to kill stuff is to hope you can break it, find an urn to break that has a healing item in it, or just stand around and wait to regenerate once you get the Cloak of the Holy Spirit.
Oh, that comes back in this?
It has another equivalent of it. I think it's got a similar name. You get it kind of late, though. And here's our first boss. As if the music going quiet when we entered the room wasn't a tip-off.
And the room being, wide open and empty, perfect for a major battle.
Yep. This is Delarn, the first boss of Wanderers, and I think the only one that actually talks to you before the fight. All he really said was roughly along the lines of, I am Delarn, grr, I'm going to kill you, let's fight.
Yeah, it was exactly, I am Delarn, here I come.
Yeah, it's like some nonsense like that, and there's no consequence to any of that. It's completely random, almost. Delarn in this game has a much more, what's the word here I'm looking for? Much greater prevalence than in Wanderers. Delarn is now a recurring antagonist that haunts you throughout most of the game.
And with actual plot significance, I understand.
Yes. This first round with him is pretty simple. This is all he does. He has 3 ways to launch out the swords. When he starts teleporting, after he reappears, he can shoot out this large, crescent-shaped projectile at you, but I've been cutting him off before he can hit me with it. Yeah, right there. I wanted to show off what that would be, and I completely fudged dodging it.
Yeah, the principal annoyance there really is just that you don't get very frequent chances to hit.
Yeah, that's just how this boss is mapped out. He will teleport away after 3 hits. Like 3 or 4, something along those lines. I wasn't counting. But now we get our first major, power-up. The Fire Spirit Bracelet.
This is another of the more major changes from Wanderers, which did not have a magic system. It just had a ring, power-up system similar to East 1.
Yes, in the PlayStation 2 remake of Wanderers, that kept the ring system, except you had a limit of how long each ring could be used. You had a sort of a magic gauge. It was just called a ring, and you had to pay a lot of money. You had to pay money to keep it recharged, and it would drain whenever you equipped a ring and then turned the ring on. And that's what the Fire Spirit Bracelet does. Let's just kill things with fire.
Always a good choice.
And mandatory for some enemies because they only take decent damage from fire. It's pretty useful because you can sort of just string a couple shots into your basic combo to just maybe kill the guy before your combo ends, or just tag something from a distance because you don't have the room to try to fight it, because there are platforms that you can fall off in this game. But otherwise, the fireballs are actually kind of hard to aim. Because as you can see, you can pretty much shoot them in any direction at all faces. So being sure you're dead on aim with them is kind of difficult.
Just as a consequence of perspective.
Yeah. However, you can sort of machine gun them, so even though they're sort of weak at the start, that you can make up for it by just spamming them. In the case of the first major boss, that's sort of what we have to do.
Mm-hmm.
Boss is completely immune. Much like in East 2, some of these bosses are completely immune to your sword, and you have to kill them with magic.
Fortunately, at least as far as I've seen of Felghana, which is not all the way through yet, this is somewhat of a less annoying game with respect to specific regular enemy vulnerabilities, whereas Nimpishtim could be a real pain sometimes about you needing to use a specific sword on certain enemies.
Oh, absolutely. That really irritated me. The 3-sword thing was pretty nifty, at least, but the problem was how they would force you to face, certain enemies with certain swords. It's okay in particular dungeons. You do a dungeon where mostly everything is weak to one element, fine. But don't give me, a room swarming with monsters that are each weak to one or the other.
Yeah. The slimes immediately come to mind.
Oh, yeah. Although you could pretty much just sort of brute force your way through the slimes with any sword anyway. You just take a little more time to kill them. And here's where we get the really nice looking waterfall effects now, because we're now like closer at the bottom of it. It's descending down towards there anyway.
Indeed.
That was another example of when the fireball could be handy. Couldn't hit that guy with the sword. And here's another pit we can cross later when we get the wind ring. And we're about to encounter the reason why Dewey said we needed this bracelet first. Not, once we kill these goblins. I don't want these guys to... I don't want these killer cockroaches to swarm me to death. They are actually pretty dangerous at this point in the game.
Yes, and this is only the first of a couple of instances of the Oath in Felghana using particularly dangerous bugs to tell you you're here too soon.
Oh yeah. Or at least you're not using your or if not just that you're here too soon, or just a very violent, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Or it's one or the other. These guys are not really that bad. It's just this early on in the game where you got nothing but leather armor and stuff like that, and they hit kind of hard, although they attack somewhat infrequently. But the more annoying part is when they do hit you, they hurl you 50 feet across.
Right, and they're reasonably fast-moving and shadow you closely enough that when they do attack, you're probably going to be in range of it.
And sometimes they can hop, and sometimes they can hit you up when you're that close, even if you're on a higher terrain, like they just did. And I kind of gotta run circles around them because unfortunately you don't have a lot of magic at the moment because you're sort of a low level. Your MP isn't that high.
Pretty good lunge distance on those attacks too.
Yeah. Like I said, they are somewhat threatening early on in the game. They are probably the most dangerous enemy in the Tiger Quarry. And unfortunately, these steps, it's kind of easy to shoot right over them. And we're going to be coming up on the very first puzzle we get to encounter.
Such as it is.
Yeah. Probably about as complex as any puzzle in this game gets. This is not a puzzle-solving game. This ain't La Mulana, people. And it's pretty simple, so I just light the torch. That torch isn't lit. Everything else is. Let's light it with fire. Insert Zelda puzzle-solved theme here. Ta-da! And we get the ruby. This is a power-up item for the fire ring. Of course, the other two magic rings we'll be getting have their own equivalent gem power-ups. Emeralds and topaz, respectively. We now have the ability to charge up the ring and do that. Although that's somewhat impressive looking. Although it's somewhat impressive looking, it's not really, because you're pretty much going to get maybe about 2 hits off of it, because the explosion hurls anything caught in it back. So anything that would get stuck in it is going to get launched out of it.
But still, hey, exploding fireball.
Exactly. Still nice. Especially on enemies that can't move. Then it's really useful. And here's this guy. A middle-aged man.
Middle-aged man.
I feel so old for getting that joke. Yes, this is the Mayor Edgar we've been looking for. And he's very grateful we came to help him.
Yes, he's certainly a little the worse for wear for his experience.
He took a bad fall and hurt his leg. Note, he doesn't seem to care that his head is gushing blood. Or worried about his leg. Well,
Enormous, this.
Yep. After this talking, we're going to face the first major boss of the game, but I'm gonna save that for another video because we're kind of getting close to the 10-minute mark, and there's no way I'm going to be beating this boss in less than a minute. And we're going to head over to the save point and just save the game. We'll see you next time. This is in Oath in Felghana. I'm GTF.
And I'm on.
See you next time.